Hi, I'm Jim Huling, and I want to welcome you to this episode of Execution Insights, the podcast. You know, there's a moment in every leader's life when the storm hits. And I'm not offering that as a figure of speech. I mean, an actual high stakes moment when the pressure rises and all the mistakes that have been made come to light. And suddenly everyone's watching to see what you and I will do next. And sometimes it's a crisis in our business. We all know those. And sometimes it's a hard conversation you've been avoiding, or even sometimes it's the moment a decision backfires and people are hurt or angry. But whatever form it takes, you can feel it. Your stomach tightens, your thoughts race, and there's that small, very human voice in the back of your mind that just kind of whispers, hey, maybe let's step back from this one. Do you know the voice, right? Maybe let someone else take this one. And now I know this because I've heard that voice and I know how loud it can get. In fact, years ago, during one of my seasons as CEO, I got a late night call from our finance team. And as soon as I heard them, I realized their voices were tight and uneasy, and certainly something was wrong. And it turns out they discovered a serious error in the financial reports we had already released publicly. Now, if you know anything at all about financial reports and public disclosure, you know this wasn't minor. This was the kind of mistake that carries penalties and can affect the confidence of investors, and that actually shakes the credibility of the board and your own team. And I remember sitting there, phone in my hand, feeling that cold rush of realization, the one that says, hey, this is bad. In fact, in my case, this is really bad. And so over the next hour, I called a few trusted advisors and sought some guidance on what to do. And the advice that came back was well-intentioned, but it was also clear. Most people said, hey, Jim, you need to protect yourself in this moment. You need to express concern and express surprise, but make sure people know that it wasn't your fault. Now, I'll be honest with you, that advice was tempting. I'm not proud of it, but it was. It was tempting to keep a little distance, to preserve my image or let others take the hit. But then something unexpected happened. In the middle of all that noise, I got quiet, and I asked for a kind of deeper guidance to help me. And that guidance rose up inside me with a single message. I'll never forget it. The guidance said, show up. That was it. That's all I heard that night. Show up, just 2 words. And so the next morning, I gathered the finance team in the conference room, and there were no speeches, there was no defensiveness, there was no accusation or search for the guilty, none of that. I simply said, hey guys, we're going to face this together. We will own it, we will fix it, and we will rebuild trust side by side, and I will be here with you until we do. Now, I want to be completely transparent. The road to recovery wasn't clean. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't pretty. We stumbled plenty along the way. But that moment of showing up and staying with it, it changed me as a leader forever. Because I realized in that moment something I'd never fully understood before, that it was possible to say and do all the right things and still fail to lead. You see, leadership isn't a performance. Leadership is a presence. And from that day to this, I've thought a lot about the difference between appearing to be involved and in control and actually leading. Because real leadership, it doesn't ask for perfection. Leadership only asks for presence. It doesn't demand that we have all the answers all the time, but it does demand that we have the courage to stand where the questions are. Because when we step forward instead of stepping back, something remarkable happens. we become the calm in the chaos. Our steadiness tells the whole team, hey, we're going to face this together. And that one choice, just showing up when it's hardest, can transform the fear of your team into focus. It can change their doubt into real trust. And best of all, I think, it can calm panic into purpose. Now, every leader I've ever coached has faced a moment of choice like this. I'm not the only one, for sure. And in those moments, the outer storm is never the real challenge. You see, the real battle, I think, happens inside. It's the battle between self-protection and service. It's the battle between our image and our integrity. It's a struggle between the comfort of safety and the call of responsibility. And I'm sorry to say, it's not a one-time test. It's a lifelong pattern we have to establish. Because the higher we rise, the lonelier those moments become. Isn't that true? Haven't you felt that? Yeah. And by the way, no one talks about how it feels to be the one who carries calm when you don't really feel calm yourself. You know what I mean? To be the steady one when your heart's just pounding. And to look at a group of people and speak confidence when inside you're uncertain. But you know, that's what real leadership is. It's choosing courage in the presence of fear, not the absence of it. That's easy. And by the way, the storms reveal who we are becoming as we do this. Not because they make us brave, not at all, but because they invite us to be brave. So when the next storm comes, and you and I know it will, what can we do? What does it look like to lead from the eye of the storm? Well, 3 things I learned that night. I want to pass all 3 of them to you today. First of all, be visible. When things go wrong, the most natural instinct is to pull back, to communicate through emails or statements or even just silence. But people don't draw strength from words on a screen. They draw strength from our presence. So show up in the room, get on the call, meet them in the hallway, and take a moment to talk. Let the people of your team see you, your face, your tone of voice, everything. Because visibility isn't about control. It's about connection. And the moment your team sees you standing there, I promise you this, their anxiety begins to settle. And their belief, well, it starts to return. Second, be calm. Now, I know this is hard, but calm doesn't mean pretending everything's fine. It means facing reality with composure. When the leader stays grounded, it changes the temperature in the entire room. In fact, people borrow our steadiness until they can rediscover their own. So when you're in a moment like this, breathe, speak slowly, ask questions that bring clarity, and most of all, model what it looks like to move through fear without letting fear drive the next decision. Because you know what? Your calm is contagious. And in the storm, I promise this, it's the first form of hope. Third and last, be committed. Don't just make an appearance and then vanish once the first wave of the crisis has passed. Stay with your team until the storm truly ends. Because when you and I remain steady through the aftermath, when we help rebuild trust and systems and confidence, we teach something that no speech and no textbook ever could. That our commitment to them isn't conditional, that we're in it for them, not just for the results. And that's what makes a team follow us, not out of compliance, but out of belief. Now, I want to close by saying, storms are inevitable. They will come again and again and again, and they will test us every single time. But remember this, leadership isn't proven in calm seas. Leadership is revealed when the winds rise and everyone else steps back. So if you're in a storm right now, if the pressure's high and the temptation to hide feels almost overwhelming, don't do it. Don't look for shelter. Be the shelter. Because somewhere, someone on that team is watching to see if courage still exists when things are hardest. So let them see it in you. Leadership doesn't wait for the storm to end. It steps into it with courage and with visibility and with heart. And in the end, it becomes the face of the solution. So if you're in a crisis today, I promise you, these 3 things will carry you through. And when you reach the other side, you and your team will have formed a bond that literally cannot be broken. I'm Jim Huling, and I'm so happy you joined us today on this episode of Execution Insights, the podcast. I'll see you in the next episode.